Billy texted me and said sorry he can't come. He's got a work thing today.
I appreciate it. Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So we're live on Facebook. We figured out the tech part of logistics and everything. So that's a great thing. Yeah, today I thought, let's talk about some of the questions and answers. I've been at the farmers market the last couple of days, and quite interesting, some of the misinformation that is being spread, as well as I think there's information behind the headlines, which I got an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. So it was certainly good to be able to take questions, talk to people at the farmers market, and hear about some of the opinions and questions they have. And obviously, one of the big things which everybody had questions about was asking has been the master plan that has been approved for Bishop Ranch. And the way I talked to a lot of people, and I said, look, there's two ways to have a city: a planned city and an unplanned city. And if we want a planned city where it's been thoughtfully planned out, where we've laid out exactly what the future will look like, we have to plan it. And the homes, the 4,500 homes in Bishop Ranch makes for a great headline on your news. But really, when it comes to how this is all going to happen, this is a master plan, and a master plan which has been worked on based on our general plan in San Ramon, and that's been worked on for the last more than the last 5 years, as we've looked at and re-examined our general plan, even councils before me, and looked at it and said, where do we want to see? What is our vision for San Ramon? And the council's vision for San Ramon is that we want to continue to protect our open spaces and hills, keep the city framed within what we, within the valley, which is why we all value living in San Ramon. But we do have RENA numbers, which a lot of people may not be familiar with, which do come to you, down from state and from local agencies. And one of the reasons is that there is still continues to be a shortage of homes in California. Homelessness, everybody is seeing that around. And so there is certainly a shortage. There's, people can't find homes. I have friends that are struggling to find homes, even though they have very well-paying jobs. And we have to build for people to be able to live in our communities as well. We cannot continue to be a single dimension city that only serves a certain level of income and serves families that want large homes and be a bedroom community. San Ramon has really grown in the last few years, over Dave, you've moved in the last few years as well. I moved and was able to live in San Ramon because Doherty Valley was built here 15 years ago. And half the population of San Ramon is here today because we built those houses in Doherty Valley. And so we have to understand that this is something we have to build. It's not that something we can stay away from. The great thing about the master plan here is that it is not going, you won't see buildings popping up tomorrow. It is still, the plan is laid out, which lays out a plan for the parks, for the lakes, for the loop around the whole community, for how people are going to be walking and biking. And it is by default that we want it to be more transit heavy and less car focused. We want to give people the option, and Bishop Ranch, as they've come to us with this plan, are giving 3 transit centers within that master plan, and they will give free passes to all the residents that live in that community to be able to take buses instead of their cars as the last mile connecting to BART, to ACE train, and hopefully Valley Link, which will be coming up in another few years. And so those are all the considerations that go into this. And the staff does a lot of background work to bring all of this to our council. And then it wasn't just the city council. Dave can probably talk about how different committees saw this plan. It was, all the different San Ramon committees, all the different commissions went and looked at this plan, gave their feedback, which was incorporated as a plan, continue to evolve. So just want to kind of talk about, that as these conversations are happening, one interesting comment I heard from somebody is that some of the other candidates have said, oh, the council members have lined their pockets. And so that's why they're approving the plan. I'm like, we have to file a 700 form, which basically declares every 6 months how much money or gifts we've taken. We have all our finances are transparent, in what we're making, what's in our stocks. And on top of that, we as we go through the election cycle, all of this is transparent information, and you can find all of that on the city's website, who's donating and who's not. And one of the big things that I've held, and especially in this election cycle that now I'm elected, anybody who's got a project in San Ramon, I have asked them to not contribute to my campaign, because I don't want any perception of bias coming in any way saying, oh, you got $100 check or a $500 check from this developer or this person, and now the project is in front of you and you might have some bias. So it's not worth it, for my campaign to take any money from anybody who's got a project. I will fairly judge that project in the best interests of San Ramon, as these projects come to in front of our council. So just, those are kind of the things which, and we hear this all the time. Oh, you guys must have been given money to do this. Well, all that information is out there. So for anybody to look it up, and very transparent on the website, how much, the council is paid. And then we have the commissions and the committees. And we're even more appreciative of the committees and the commissions that are really the extension of the council, and residents that are doing pretty much the same thing, representing us on these different committees, and then bringing it up to the council's attention, as to what should be, what could be the policies. I mean, a great one is the housing committee that really brought the affordable housing ordinance, and that came, with my understanding is the teen council was very passionate about it, and they worked with the housing development committee to bring that to the council. And so the city is such a complicated, if you will, web of how things are happening. We on council, that are the council members and the mayor, we're really the policy making arm. We are the representatives of the people. So we want to make sure we are voting on things, which are in the best interest of the city, based on our ears to the ground as we're listening to residents and what they want and what they see. And nothing can get passed on council without a 3-2-4-1 or a 5-0 vote. So it's always a majority vote that is going to pass anything on council. So that's an important distinction for people to understand, because generally people understand about the higher offices. When it comes to, our offices at the local level, people think we can have, as a single person, have a policy. Yes, we can promote for it. We can ask for support, but it has to come in a public meeting in front of everybody to be discussed. And if you're not familiar with it, and so much of this I have learned myself, is the Brown Act. The Brown Act of California really, anybody who serves on a committees, anybody who serves on a commissions, and then all the way up to council, we have to make sure that we never discuss any of the things that are coming in front of council, any decisions, outside of the public meeting. There has to be a notice so that everybody in public is notified that this will be discussed. That's why a lot of times when people ask us questions on council meetings or have comments, we generally point them back to staff, or we say this will have to be agendized and come back to the next council meeting for us to discuss, because there may be other people interested that have not been noticed. So that's, I think, it was, for me, sometimes when you're in the job, when you're doing this every day, it becomes, day to day, it becomes the norm. But like I said, some of the conversations I had yesterday at the farmer's market really triggered me to say, hey, I need to bring this, as I have my coffees, and, as I talk about this, I'm sure there's other people that are very curious as to what's going on, how decisions are being made, and if there is misinformation being spread, how do we make sure that each one of us, myself, and I would speak for my peers as well, that we are very accessible, whether you want to call us, whether you want to send us an email, and how we can answer that question. And then the partnership of the city staff. I want to say Joe Gordon is our city manager. If you will, if you want to compare it to a corporate world, we are the board of directors, and Joe is really the CEO of this city, and he's the one who really makes sure that the day-to-day operations of the city are run well, that the staff is managed well, that the staff is bringing all these things in front of council. So we, in essence, do the work of the board of directors, deciding what the vision will be, where the policy will go, what the budget is going to be, approving that. But really, all the background work that happens is our staff does all that work. Joe has an amazing team of leaders. Again, it's the finance department, the economic development, his own office with the communications, public works, and parks and recreation. And these department heads are again managing a large staff, which are, a lot of them live in the city of San Ramon, and some may not live in the city of San Ramon, but they are the staff for the city of San Ramon. And the city, the reason it looks so beautiful, I was just at a small picnic in the park, and one of my friends I was talking to, I'm like, can you imagine, do you know how many parks we own? And mowing each lawn, like, we have trouble enough mowing our own lawns and watering them and all. I said, can you imagine how perfectly manicured each park is in San Ramon? Have you guys stood for a second and noticed how they're watered, how green the grass is? When we were in COVID for 3 weeks, people were complaining and saying, what's going on with this city, right? So really, I would say, take a moment, look around you, look at your streets as you drive your cars. How many potholes do you see in San Ramon? When you walk your paths, when you ride your bikes, appreciate all the work that goes in, because the staff really works hard every single day to make sure that we keep San Ramon at a service level, which people almost take for granted in San Ramon today. And so, we really I wanted to bring that to the attention of folks as well, because we are so used to just having everything run smoothly like a clockwork, that we don't take a moment to appreciate and maybe even send them letters and say thank you for what you're doing for our city, for maintaining our streets, our parks, for making sure our roads are in the best of their conditions. And we have a lot of, like I said, subcommittees. Dave, who's joining me here as one of the participants, he's on the arts committee. And, the arts projects that are coming to the city, the utility boxes that we have. I mean, there's a lot of, I know you guys go through a lot of applications. There was a lot of interest in and really thoughtfully picking what represents San Ramon and the core of San Ramon. And we have foundations which really help bring money and partner with the city to make sure, whether it's the historic foundation, which is maintaining the barn and the farm, and the arts foundation. Again, both myself and Dave are members of that, where we want to see, how we can partner and bring money for the promotion of the arts in San Ramon. We have the Senior Foundation, we have the Library Foundation, and then, all these. So there is so much partnership from the residents of San Ramon as well as we execute on all of this. So I kind of wanted to talk about that, explain. So Dave or Farouk, do you guys have any questions as I've spoken through some of these things about how the city works and how we plan this out?
Yeah, no, the funny thing for me too is, so I've been on the Arts Advisory Committee for 2 years. I started attending the mayor's breakfasts shortly after I moved here, and I'm still learning. I'm sure you too, you still are, Sabina, you're on the city council. There's, it's like a $80-100 million budget for the city. So when you describe Joe as the CEO and you guys as the board of directors coming from the corporate world, that's kind of how I view it too. It's a very big thing and there's lots of pieces together. And to me, what's remarkable is how well San Ramon runs. Because anyone who's worked in the corporate world, $100 million budget, usually there's a lot of things that don't run well. So I think it's pretty amazing what we're able to accomplish with that. And it's kind of interesting. I think the development, I think it comes from a basis of fear, and change is something everybody fears, even though it's inevitable. And what I like about the Citywalk plan that you guys approved is that it's adaptable. It's 27 years. Mm-hmm. So by the time this thing's done, I'm going to be collecting Social Security. So it's not all happening at once. So I thought it was a very smart plan that you guys put together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. A lot of people don't know about the Doherty Valley and how that came about, right? And again, that was something which I tried to tell residents as well, that it's important that San Ramon makes this decision. And so 30 years ago, when Doherty Valley was being planned, the developers did come to our council at that time, and the council did not approve any housing because they did not want to build any housing on the hills. And well, the developers went to the county, and the county overrode San Ramon. And the county did approve the Doherty Valley plan. Instead of the 5,000 originally asked by the developers, the county approved 11,000 homes. And people, that are paying the extra tax are paying because Doherty Valley was the way it was built, is that the developers took that money from the residents in a Melrose tax and some of the other taxes, and a large. I'm still blown away by how much money goes back to the county, and we essentially reclaim 19 to 21 million dollars on for Doherty Valley, doing the services and everything like that. We have finally annexed Doherty Valley, which means now all of it is part of San Ramon, and hopefully we won't have to go back and ask for the taxes, but will be paid just like we get paid county taxes for all the other houses in San Ramon. But it is very important that as a city, we do have a seat at the table with the developers so that we can negotiate for not just approving this plan, but really a development agreement which benefits the city. And that's kind of the next phase of what's going to happen, where how do we agree on a development plan which doesn't benefit a certain area in San Ramon, but all of San Ramon, and we build a whole city. We still don't see it as a siloed downtown in the city. The downtown vision's been there. Even 15 years ago when I moved, I was told we will have something like Santana Row. And it was planned. It was, architecture was there, everything was there. And yet when Sunset looked at a few years later, obviously everything stopped in 2008 and moving forward because of the economy downturn. But when Sunset looked at the plans again to bring up this downtown vision that we've had, they noticed that, basically they saw that retail and housing did not mix well, and people, and it did not do as well as separating housing and retail. So what they did as part of that large plan, which we would have had essentially, Santana Row like street from City Hall all the way to where City Center is today, they essentially peeled off that housing and said, we'll make a smaller retail, but all focused on retail, and then we'll put the housing next to it. So that housing has already been approved as part of the plan years ago, and the 4,500 even that are approved have taken into account that housing which was already approved. So we haven't added any of that to it, and that's the one people will see first. And that's been something which has been part of the plan for years. The fact that all of that now tied into one large plan is where we are today. So that's kind of, on the 4,500 homes, which people have been asking questions, I highly encourage everybody to read up on that plan. There is really very detailed on how these will be built. I mean, down to the plants and the drought tolerant plants that are going to be planted, how it's going to be more um, environmentally friendly. And already our city center is LEED certified. The other cool thing, I know a lot of people know this, but a lot of people don't, that we do have a piece of art in the city center because it was designed by a world-renowned architect, Ranzo Piano. And so, this is the same architect that designed the California Academy of Sciences. So, we are very thoughtfully building the city, and I appreciate any questions. Obviously, if you go to the city website, all my information is there, and I'd love to continue having conversations because I don't expect everybody to be reading the plan. I don't expect everybody to know everything, but it is my responsibility to make sure there's no misinformation spread out there about what this plan looks like. And like you said, Dave, the fear of what's going to happen, and how do we embrace it? How do we make sure, again, all of these are not approved, right? Nothing is approved in terms of what other housing will come. Each one of the housing units that are going to come up, everything that's going to come up is going to go through the same process of making sure that our commission is looking at it, that we're giving feedback, and we're approving them as they slow roll. It could be 4,527 years. It could be less, right? That is the max that's allowed. It really will depend how the build out happens, how the city grows, what the needs are, and so it's again, it's a plan, not set in stone, and something which will roll out year after year, and residents will continue to have opportunity to give input into this. The other thing that is going to be coming in front of council, it would we call the Crow Canyon specific plan. So City Council meets every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. We take one summer break and one winter break. Other than that, we're on a very regular schedule, 7 p.m. And so anything that comes in front of council is agendized and published 5 days before the meeting on a public portal on the city website, as well as sent over to council at the same time. So that, again, we are able to, these are just laws we have to follow as part of the Brown Act. And if there's ever a conflict of interest, if it's going to be something in our neighborhood which could directly affect, affect the council members, we recuse ourselves from that decision. We don't become a part of that decision. So, those are important things to know as we're thinking about who we're electing to our councils, who we are electing as a mayor, the next mayor. That people, it's certainly a learning experience. I've learned immensely in the last two years, being on council, learning through, I would say, trial and error sometimes as well. You come with a bit of a playbook where you're told these are the guardrails, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how things work. But so much of it is, as representatives, you learn on the job. And you really, I would say, one thing I've really come to appreciate is our city staff and how thoughtfully they plan everything, bring it in front of council. And, sometimes they do get backlash by residents, sometimes even by council on, what we like, what we don't like. But this is not, they continue to work very hard. I had a very interesting conversation on our climate action plan. And San Ramon just won an award for a climate action plan from the League of California Cities because of how many things we've implemented as part of our climate action plan. And I was talking to our city staff who was explaining to me the climate action plan. And then he's like, but you know what? We just built it into our general plan. So there are so many things which, as we approve our general plan, as we approve our development projects, the climate action plan is part of it. Whether it's negotiating our garbage contracts, which again, the goal was to be recyclable, organics more and more, and paying a higher price for trash. So if you want your bill lower, again, you get a smaller trash can, you'll pay a lower bill, and it'll push you to recycle more and put more trash in the organics and things like that. When it comes to city landscaping, the putting in and making sure we're putting in more drought tolerant, more native plants. You know, 30 years ago, things which were okay are not all right anymore. So putting in that, giving the option to all residents to get their energy 100% from renewable resources through EMC, deep green, or how whatever suits your family best. But residents have an opportunity now and the option to go 100% renewable through and those are the things and contracts that the council has negotiated and staff has brought in front of us for us to make sure that we are constantly aware of the environment and are serving through all the decisions we make. And so, anytime if folks have questions, people have asked me questions. I've also said, reach out to staff. They're very open. They will come and explain to you, exactly how things work. So again, transparent city government is the key. Our website has, I know, a lot of content. It is searchable, but everything from how much somebody's paid to, what our master plan looks like to what are all the projects that are coming to the city of San Ramon. I did want to kind of share this binder I have. It's called the CIP. This is the capital improvement. If you guys can see that through my.
It's kind of disappearing.
It's like the big binder, which has our capital improvement program for the next 5 years. And this is what we look through, right? These are projects which have been identified as, the next 5 years, this is what we want to put our budget towards, our money towards. And it is also great for us because if, for example, the state is giving, state has allocated funds for different cities and communities. And if we've identified projects that we want money for, we can ask for state budget, we can ask for federal budget. So only, of the 127 million budget that we have in San Ramon, only 50 million actually comes from our revenues. Everything else is some sort of a fund or a grant, which is specific for and earmarked for a certain project. And that's really how city financing works, that, we're only getting 50 million from whatever fees we're collecting, whatever property taxes, sales taxes and everything. But most of our projects are funded through these, through these grants and money that comes for specific things. For example, the Iron Horse Overpass is a great example of, the last 10 years that the city's been collecting money through Measure J, through other sources, and where other cities have also, part of regional, other cities have come together and said, okay, let's give this money to San Ramon. When you're done with your project, then the next pool can come to our city and we would want your support. So that's kind of how we would design a budget, get money for a large number of projects that we're here executing in San Ramon. And so really, I would, love to wrap it up with what is the role of the mayor and why is, the mayor an important figurehead, if you will, in the city. And this, the mayor is really the face of the council. The council puts their trust in mayor to go out and represent the council, whether it's at local events, like you said, Dave, the mayor's breakfast. And now that it's gone virtual, it's becoming even more important. So that's where the city aligns their resources, and the mayor makes sure that they're meeting out and meeting in the community. Obviously, all of us on council do this as a part-time. I don't know if I would call it part-time, but this is in addition to our day jobs that we do. And it does take a lot of time. So the mayor essentially steps up and really takes the role of being the regional leader. Like I said, the regional leadership is very important. And even more so because San Ramon is becoming a very important city in the region. The way we are developing things, some of the things which are happening right here in San Ramon, the entire region is looking at us and saying, how is San Ramon doing this? And how can we follow and partner? And that's becoming more and more important, whether it's on the federal level, representing at the mayor's conference, at the county level, where we meet with all 19 cities every month at the mayor's conferences in the county, virtually these days. But but sitting on regional boards, being a liaison to all these different committees, and Doherty Valley oversight and things like that. So there's a lot of things that the mayor does in addition to the council. Obviously, sometimes when he or she is not available, hopefully it'll be a she, is not available, they can delegate to other council members. They can request other council members to represent them, and we really do. First you ask the vice mayor. If the vice mayor is not available, you ask the other council members. So it is, it is very important for a council and for the city that we work together and that we work well together, because we are the policy decision making arm. And like I said, the mayor's role is critical in making sure we work together well as a council, as well as we keep an eye on the regional stuff and really represent San Ramon on a regional level. So I think that with that, I shared quite a bit of information. I hope it helped, people understand, again, why it is important. From a campaign standpoint of view, these Sundays have been very helpful, at least connecting. And now that we're live on Facebook, I've gotten a lot more feedback. The farmers market's been phenomenal. People are really coming up and talking. I am not walking. I do want to be mindful. I think people don't want us at their doors, but I'm writing a lot of postcards, and I know a lot of my friends are writing a lot of postcards to our voters, which you'll get in your mailboxes, and to get the word out. And I know we have a lot of yard signs right now. I've had a hard time trying to keep up with the yard signs that are out there right now, and people coming up to me, well, we didn't see your yard sign there. I'm like, it's okay. If you want for your own personal lawn, let me know. I'm not going to be able to keep up with the yard sign more that's out there right now. um, but yeah, you will, there are some key dates. October 5th is really when the county will start sending your ballots. So as you look into your mailboxes, your ballots would start coming in. Contra Costa has been a very heavily mail-in ballot county anyways. I think we were up to 80%. So this is going to be a lot more of a norm. I do enjoy voting from home because I can sit and really read through and compare notes, on the candidate statements and then vote, versus being in a box and voting. So I've always preferred voting from home. And there are a lot of drop boxes now that are, I believe there's one in uh, the Central Park for San Ramon. Obviously, there's always one in City Hall, but now there are some drop boxes which are also outside. So if City Hall is closed at 5 o'clock, you can drop it in very secure drop boxes, in the community center as well. And 15th October 15th is the last day to register to vote for the November 3rd election, and then November 3rd is election day. So those are important dates to remember. I do thank you for joining me. Um, for Sundays, this has been interesting, fun for me, a new way of communicating. But Dave and Farouk, always appreciate you guys joining me and having maybe coffee with me, or chai, or whatever your preferred drink of choices for a Sunday morning. Um, well, thank you, and I will see you guys and talk to you later. Bye.
Take care. Have a good one, guys.
You
You
too.
too. Thanks. Bye.